Hello and welcome back to episode 3 of Building Skills, Paving Pathways, a podcast series brought to you by NTU's Career and Attachment Office, which features notable alumni, their journeys, their highs, their lows, and specific skills they've built in their career progress. On this episode, to share about the skills of influence and persuasion and problem solving, we have the Regional Sales Leader of LinkedIn Corporation, Atul. Harkisanka.
Hey Kevin, that's a great intro.
Thank you.
How are you doing?
I'm great. I'm glorious. How does it feel to be back?
Yeah, I walked around and I don't think anyone realized I'm probably twice their age, or well, some of them at least.
Yeah. Great. I'm looking forward to chatting with you, on a very relevant topic. I don't think people realize how relevant, regardless of whatever degree they're taking, influence, persuasion, problem solving is relevant in their lives because everybody works with people. So especially in the position you're in, I'm sure you have a wealth of experiences which we are looking forward to picking your brains on, right? But I guess before that, we'd like to know, maybe just briefly about your time in NTU. What's your fondest memory here, your time in NTU?
Skipping classes, late night suppers.
That's a great way to start a podcast. But yeah, very authentic. And how is it like just having that friendship with one another?
Yeah, in all seriousness, the bonds that I built at NTU, some of them are my closest friends to date. The learnings that we picked up, whether in classes or outside during CCAs and club activities, sports, I was very active in a number of them. Sure. I think the values we picked up and some of the skills that you mentioned, consciously or unconsciously, we start owning some of these from very young days, especially university. And they stick with me to date. So yeah, I love coming back to NTU, speaking to students, and love contributing back.
Yeah, thank you. And I found it interesting as well because you did computer engineering and then you graduated at first class honors and then you went into sales, right? Which I guess some people might see it as, you cannot find a job and then you go into sales, right? Yeah, so why do you choose to actually do that? Actually, curious.
Good question. I majored in computer engineering, but I also did a minors in business.
Okay.
And some of the modules that I did as part of that, entrepreneurship, accounting, I found them really useful and very relevant to what I actually like more, maybe some modules in computer engineering for that matter. And I always wanted to be in a people-facing job, sure. Or in other words, not sit behind the desk and do the same thing every day.
Yep.
And I did not know much about the world of sales. In fact, I don't think students today know much about the world of sales. And the glory lies in banking, finance, consulting back in my time. A lot of my peers applied for those. I did too. A lot of my peers got those jobs. I did not. Okay. So I continued applying and I accidentally landed up in sales. I initially did not like sales all that much, my first 2-3 years of my career. But my teammates were great. My boss was amazing. They were really nice to me. And for that reason, I just hung around and I persisted. And it was really around, say, maybe year 4, year 5 mark, I realized this is good for me. This is all I wanted. And I needed to work hard to get better at it. And then I started putting in time and energy to get better at it. And I love sales now. I can't see myself doing anything else.
Wow. Thanks for sharing that. I think before we go into persuasion and skills, right? A little bit maybe on your time in LinkedIn. You worked there for 10 years, almost a decade. Mm-hmm. Yeah, how is it like working there? I'm sure some people are curious also. Maybe they have considered working there.
Yep.
How is it like working at LinkedIn?
Yeah, I mean, for those of you who are interested, want to build your careers in LinkedIn, please feel free to get in touch. First of all, we are always looking for great talent.
Yeah, I will connect to LinkedIn there. He's very open to connect with people and very open to share. So I'll put it in the link. Yeah.
And we are growing and expanding. No, it's been a privilege being part of this organization for the last 10 years. When I started with LinkedIn, we were less than 10 people. In fact, our office was probably a quarter of the space that we are sitting in right now, and it was a shared space. And to see this company and business built from where we were, we had less than 100 million members globally, then a few 100,000 in Singapore. Today, we are 2 million plus in Singapore, 800 million plus globally. Wow. And the team in Singapore is now 600 plus. So it's been an absolute delight, a privilege and honor to be part of this. But more importantly, the roles and responsibilities that have been given to me over time. I always have this joke internally. My title actually at LinkedIn has not changed. But the job that I do 4 years back with the same title is so very different from what I do today. And what I do in next 1 year will be very different from what I'm doing now. And that's the fun part of it. Along the way, our industry changes very quickly. Things like COVID happen. Then there are macro geopolitical changes, which give us an opportunity to adapt, adjust, and react to that. And we are at the forefront of driving this change with our customers, with our members. And that's the delight in being part of this company and riding the ship. It's been amazing, and I see myself here for a while.
I think it's a good transition into speaking about the skills that have probably are central to the work that you do, among other things. Persuasion and influence and problem solving. Let's start with persuasion first. What is persuasion to you?
When I think of persuasion and wearing a sales hat, it is really the art and science of convincing someone to either do something for you or buy something from you. So I want to emphasize on both the art and science piece of it.
Okay.
Art is where you might say someone is born with it, but I truly believe that charisma can be trained and worked on. And I believe you do a lot of work around that area. Science is there is a process and there is a method to it. And repetition helps. I mean, from an analogy, sports, whether it is Michael Jordan talking about taking 10,000 shots or Cristiano Ronaldo training 4 hours more than any of his teammates, that made them the best of who they are. That's very much true in persuasion and sales. Okay. So there is art and science to it. And people who do both, not at the cost of one another, it's really an and, not an or, tend to be good at persuading or sales.
What do you need to do to be good? You read about it, you observe people, you chat with mentors. How is that developed?
It's a process. It takes time. You really need to invest in yourself becoming a good salesperson. And to date, I don't know of any school or university that teaches you to be a salesperson.
Yeah, I know.
There is no course, right? So a lot of it is on-the-job learning, and you need the right environment. Let us start with the company and the team that you are part of, the boss or your manager who you report to. They need to believe in you, they need to invest in you, and they need to put you through the right training, especially on the method and the process piece. And I was fortunate to start my career at IBM. They put us through a 10-week program, and today a lot of companies have similar graduate programs around sales. Okay. It starts there, but from there it is really about finding your own groove. I truly believe that no two successful salespeople have the same DNA. We know the destination, but the journey to the destination could take many paths. And that's the beauty of sales. Sure. Many different people with different personalities and styles can be successful. Wow. And that's where I encourage students, regardless of which school you are in, where your strengths lie, really explore sales as a career, because it is for everyone. There is no one DNA that is successful. As long as you are willing to work hard and invest in simple skills like listening, observing, researching, connecting with people, helping people, you can go a long, long way.
Yeah. Let's dive into that in a bit, okay? Because I realized offline we chat about this, and I think you shared really good tips with me. I'm just talking about more broad principles now, right? But why is it important? Maybe we go a little bit deeper. Why is it important for students to learn how to persuade or learn how to influence? Why is it relevant to any student across
great question, Kevin. And this brings me back to my days as a student. And a lot of times we go for interviews. What are you doing in an interview? You are essentially trying to influence the other person, the hiring manager or the HR person, to make a decision in your favor. More often than not, that person is more experienced than you, more seasoned than you, more qualified than you. But you have to influence that person. You have no power or authority over them. Yeah. Thus comes in the skills of influencing. Another scenario, as a student, we had to do a lot of project work. And we are put together in these groups of 4 to 5 students where we work with folks who might not be our best friends all the time. We may not even know them. And there's always this one person who does not show up for scheduled meetings and does not do her or his part of the work. So how do you influence them to do something when you don't have any authority? All of you are on equal standing. So I believe influencing, persuading are real good skills applicable in any student's day-to-day life. And any student should invest in getting better at these skills. Yeah.
Let's tangent off slightly, since we touched on that. Really brief advice. If a student comes up to you and says, hey, someone's not carrying their weight. What is one tip I'm sure a lot of people have this question. What's one tip you have?
Yeah, go and have a difficult conversation with that person. And it happens in work all the time, right?
Yeah.
I mean, this is a scenario that we face at work, in office, more often than you would like. Regardless of how great a company and business you are working in, there's always that one person who's not doing what they're supposed to do. Have a heart-to-heart, honest conversation with that person. Share your observations, share what you have heard from people, share the facts, and let the person respond. Do not jump to any conclusions. Do not assume that person is not doing it because they did not want to. Or I would say assume good intent. Okay. Assume that the other party wanted to give in their best, but something happened along the way that they could not. And your job is to understand what happened and how can you bring that person back to where they wanted to be. I mean, I always have this saying or this thinking in my head. No one goes up to work or school to have a bad day. You don't show up one day, hey, today's going to be my worst day in school, or today's going to be my worst day at work. Everyone goes to school or work to be their best selves, to become better, to contribute. And if they end up in a place where they're not doing so, something must have happened for them or to them. And we have to find out what.
Okay. Wow. That's amazing. It just comes from a place of empathy as well. Right? I think I do a lot of sales as well as an entrepreneur, and I realized one thing that helped me as well, that someone said to me that empathy sometimes defeats or is more important than eloquence. Right? Empathy over eloquence. Not that eloquence is not important, it's just that when you have empathy for someone else, people don't buy because they understand, they buy because they feel understood. Now, of course, take it to understand as well. But I'm just saying that sometimes
it's a cumulative journey, yes.
Yeah, some people might be a bit skeptical, right? They say, I think I'm just getting people to do what I want to do. And they're skeptical about sales and influence in general. How is persuasion different from manipulation?
In the context of sales, I think it's very different. It's very misunderstood, actually. Manipulation is when you are doing something for your own good and only for your interest. When you are persuading someone, you are eventually reaching a place where both you and the other party win. It should be a win-win for both of us. It should be a long-term journey, a long-term partnership. And it's continued returns as well. It's not just for now that they agreed to do something for you or buy something from you, but you build a relationship that over time it harvests and it grows. Whereas manipulation means either you or the other party got something more out of it. It's disproportionate. It's never equal. And that's manipulation, and not really used often in the right context when it comes to sales specifically.
Okay. And that comes with empathy, because knowing if you're actually serving the person's needs or you think that's what the person wants. I feel like a lot of times in those breakdowns, or when people say that I feel manipulated, it's actually when that agreement, that context isn't set clearly. And so it's important as a leader, or even as anything in your relationships, whether it's romantic or whether it's otherwise, to actually have constant check-ins on the context. Otherwise, one party will feel manipulated.
For sure, I completely agree. It comes with that awareness, and it also comes with great communication. And communication is not just saying or speaking or writing. It is also listening and asking right questions. You only listen well when you ask right questions, which is, again, a very underrated skill in today's world.
Good transition into practical tips. I was going to say, what are some practical tips students can do to develop their influence and persuasion?
Say practice having difficult conversations. So especially with a teammate who you do not like or do not align and agree on ideas and worldviews on, and that's fine. But you need to work together. Have that difficult conversation, understand where they are coming from, ask open-ended questions, just so that you know their point of view better. I'm not asking you to be best friends and buddies for life, but for you to appreciate the differences between both of you and for you to expand your horizon of thinking. I think that would be a good way to start.
Yeah. You also mentioned, I think, something that struck me. Influence is about trust, right? Building trust. And I asked you how you can build trust. You want to share that with the audience? I felt that was good.
Well, yeah, all right. So for me, I define trust as consistency over time. And consistency really means doing small things for the other party, other person, over a sustained period of time without expecting anything in return. So for example, talk about a business relationship. And I met this decision maker from a large company. They are not buying from me anything yet. But for me to build trust with them, I keep sending them different information, knowledge about their competitors, information on industry events, maybe a white paper, invite them to an event. All of these are things that I can do for them that don't really cost me anything but time and energy and thoughtfulness. It should be relevant for the other party. But over a period of time, the recipient sees and believes that, hey, this person, Atul, really wants me to do well. And he understands what is important to me. And he delivers over time. And that builds trust. We do this so often in our day-to-day lives with our partners, with our kids, with people, our friends. We get them gifts. We remember their anniversaries. We remember their birthdays. And we do it over time as a given. We just need to bring that mindset and do it consciously in other walks of life.
Love it. I think Simon Sinek also said, relationship is built on consistency, not intensity. In fact, leadership is built on consistency, not intensity. Right. You can't just send everyone to one-day course and expect them to be a leader, right? And sometimes because we live in a society where everything's milestone-driven, we feel that, okay, I've done this course, I am a good salesperson. It rarely ever is the case.
Yeah, it never is that way. Trust is not just built in good times. It's easy to build trust in good times. But in difficult times, when the going gets tough, that's when you have an opportunity to build real trust. And we saw this over the last 2 years. COVID made life difficult for a lot of us in so many different ways, and just a great opportunity for the best to build trust. And also, it's very easy to break trust in difficult times. So challenging times, tough situations really challenge trust.
Okay, let's move on to talk about problem solving. Let me set the context a little bit. Problem solving, it is very relevant. It is relevant in all areas of our life. We solve problems: relationship, work, career, projects, as you mentioned earlier. Even something as simple as finding something around the house. Okay, it's a way of problem solving, but it's so intuitive that we don't consider that, hey, that actually is thinking about it can help us. What are some broad principles when it comes to problem solving?
I think you started on a very good note. Problem solving is so relevant and can be applied to so many different realms of our life and in so many different ways. I think it all starts with just being curious, understanding the situation, and having the mindset to fix it, to do something about it. The alternative to problem solving to me is really complaining, grumbling, and the B word, right? And not doing anything about it. So problem solving is basically, we know that the situation is not ideal, and this could be in any context, and let us do something about it. Let us make our lives better and the lives of those around us better. And in some cases, our business is better.
Yeah. I think 7 Habits by Stephen Covey. I think the second habit, he talked about proactiveness, right? Being proactive and not reactive, right? Focusing on your locus of control instead of what you can't. And what I found also is, like, for me personally, a lot of my frustration and anxiety comes when I place attention on things outside my control. And it just leads to a lot of nonsense. But when you actually focus on the locus of control, it helps. It helps a lot. So I guess that mindset you shared is pretty relevant. What are some maybe practical tips that you can have? And then also I'm going to ask about real life examples in your workplace. But what are some practical tips? Broad practical tips first.
Around problem solving, yes. I'll talk about a framework. I'm very big on frameworks and methods.
Yeah, I think it helps people to appreciate things.
And mental models. Yeah. We have this framework that we apply usually in coaching conversations, but very relevant to problem solving as well. And the abbreviation is GROW, G-R-O-W.
Okay.
And G here stands for your goal or objective. Okay. What are you trying to solve for, or what are you trying to achieve? R then stands for reality or the current situation. So what is happening now? As you said, what is within our control, what is not within our control. Have a very clear idea of that. And this is where a little bit of curiosity comes in as well. You go and research, you go and talk to your peers, you go and talk to people maybe even outside your industry or outside your circle of influence, and learn more on what is happening. O is options, or what are the possibilities? What are the different ways now to solve the problem? You know the objective, you know the situation you are in, and as we talk to more people, we get more ideas. Very often, we started with 3 ideas or 3 ways to solve this issue or problem. But when we start talking to people, I had not thought of that. Or, that's a different way of doing something that might be helpful for everyone. And usually that 3 becomes 10. All of them might not be feasible, practical, executable, but at least you have a bigger bucket to work with and from. And W is way forward or really next step. So now that you know the situation a lot better, you have more ideas, possibilities. What do we do now? Who do we bring in this party or project to align and work together?
And I might add as well that writing things down help. A lot of times it's just in our head. When we just write things down, journaling or writing things down is, I believe personally, one of the most underrated skills, and I believe should be taught in every school. It's just not taught.
I agree. In fact, I read a quote this morning, writing makes you a better speaker. And not only that, writing makes you a better thinker. And we used to do so much writing when we were in our early school days, in primary school, secondary school. Yeah. We do so much writing, we do essays and stuff, but people start taking it for granted and write shorthand or just find the shortest way to get around it. I've realized over my career, actually writing really helps and is a very, again, underrated skill.
Okay. Let's chat a bit about emotional control, right? Because we talked about the technical aspect of problem solving, but you realize when someone faces a problem, the emotions are also kind of messed up. Right. How do you exercise emotional control and manage your emotions in the midst of uncertainty?
It's difficult. It's not easy. After all, we are human beings, and what sets us apart from many others is our emotions. And that's what differentiates us. If all of us had a very robotic response to a problem, there would be no fun in it. So first of all, I would start by saying acknowledge the emotions. And never try to squash them, never try to undermine them. If the other person or you are feeling sad, dejected, unhappy, it is okay to feel that. So acknowledge the emotions, and there is a time and place for it.
Okay.
What is important is how do you then manage those emotions once you have acknowledged them. You should not let the emotions interfere with the challenge, situation, objective you have on hand and what you want to do. And really, the advice that I've received and read over years is be a spectator to your emotions.
Okay.
Observe them as a third party. Let them pass through. Let those initial 5 seconds or 10 seconds happen, and then choose the best non-emotional response that you would have as a third party. Or in other words, what would your friend advise you to do in this stage, at this point of time? And you would realize that decision or that advice would be so very different from what you were about to do. And make sure that you practice this over and over again, and then you will be in a much better place. Not easy to do. It's unhuman. It's against our instinct. It's against how we are wired and what we are told over years. So it's really, really difficult.
Okay. But I'm glad that you raised that awareness, even my awareness as well, of being a spectator, observing the event. Last question before we go into our quick fire round is what is a real life example maybe of problem solving that's maybe in your work that you remember?
I'll go back to the GROW model. Let's use that and
sure, that's great.
Walk through one example, and I hope that this audience will find some relevance in this as well, right? Yeah. Because it's about hiring people. Yeah. It's about hiring some of you even, possibly. So what happened, or what is happening in the market and industry right now is attrition in our companies and businesses is very, very high. A lot of people are leaving for different kind of jobs. People have realized over COVID that they want to do something different, or maybe even take a career break or go to study. So the challenge here, the G goal or objective is we are facing very high attrition rates, and either we want to attract more talent faster or we want to prevent and retain our top talent. So that's the situation. Reality, as we spoke, is it's real. Now we can sit back and complain about it and say, hey, my company is not paying me enough, HR does not want to give more money, or we can choose to do something about it. And when I chose to listen more, I went and spoke to some of my peers, other sales leaders in similar companies. I realized that they were facing the same situation. In fact, some of them were in a worse situation than mine, which made me feel slightly better. But I wasn't unique in this. And a lot of people were looking for answers. And if I could find some solutions, or we could find some ways forward, it would help a lot of us. Yeah. So what were our options? I mean, option is do nothing or complain or fight with HR to give more money. But over time, when you put a hand to the heart and really had very deep one-on-ones with my teams and people who were leaving, it wasn't the money being the reason that they were leaving, or money wasn't number one reason why they were leaving. Their priorities had really changed and they wanted to do something different, or they just wanted to be more adventurous and experimental, especially after COVID. Sure. And that's fine. So what can we do about it? We just have to be prepared. So in the past, we used to say 5% or 10% attrition rate is normal, and we used to plan for that. And now we need to plan for a 30% or a 40% attrition rate. And it's all right. And what do we need to do to prepare for that? We start talking to prospective talents and candidates earlier. So if we were to pipeline or put on bench 3 candidates in past, now we need to increase that bench to maybe 10, 15 candidates. And that process starts way early. So I might not have an open role now, but I'm already talking to 5 to 10 people.
Which underlies also, sorry to cut you up a little bit, which underlies the importance of students preparing early and, taking action while even studying.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, for students, for early career professionals, there are so many opportunities out there, and just build your networks. You should know the hiring managers of companies where you want to work way before they have a role for you. And if you build a connection with them, if you've shared the good work that you are doing over a period of time, when the role opens, they would think of you. And that really essentially is what it is.
Thank you so much, Atul. You have really shared your heart here. I felt so absorbed. I forgot I was a host as well for a moment. But we do have a final segment for you. Just 5 final questions on uni life and just work, and you can just answer them. First question, what is the biggest value lesson you've gained from university?
Relationships matter.
Okay. Elaborate a little bit.
The bonds that we build stay over time, and no matter whether you are apart in distance or time, people will help you once you have spent that time together, and they never say no. Even now, if I reach out to any NTU alumni, whether we have spoken or not, and I just refer to as NTU as us being alma maters, I get a response. 9 out of 10 times I'll get a response, and it is that bond, that common ground.
What is the biggest quote-unquote failure in your working career?
Not being patient enough. Still practicing patience. I'm a very restless, get it done now, very results driven, very output driven, as much as I tell myself not to be. And it's something I'm always working on, but never enough.
How do you overcome it, or what have you done to?
It's a lot of self-talk and thoughtfulness and my own approach to people, holding myself back, putting myself in the other person's shoes. We spoke about compassion earlier. Easier said than done. Always working on it.
What is a blunt but useful advice you have received?
I speak too fast.
I find it fine though. Maybe we're just fast-paced people. Okay, understand. What is one quote philosophy you live by that inspires you?
Be a spectator to your own thoughts. And I could refer you the article, but
link it up.
Absolutely. Be a spectator to your own thoughts is something that has always stuck with me out of those 5. And I would say one of my things that I hold near and dear to my heart and mind.
Love it. Last question. What is the final message you have for NTU students?
It's a great time to be graduating. It's probably the best time to be in this world as someone who is so young, with the world of opportunities and possibilities just so wide open. We are really living in a global world. You can learn in so many different ways. Your education, your learning does not stop with school. Continue your learning in so many different ways. Follow YouTube, listen to podcasts. It's one of my favorite things. Read, research, network, connect with people. And there are so many things that you will be able to do because of the advancements and the progress that's happening in the world around us that you might not even know or realize now. and really be open to options and go out, have fun. It's a great time. I wish I was graduating now.
We feel like a student again.
We are all students.
Feel very excited. Oh, we are.
We are all students, and we are all learning. In fact, we have to learn more now than I probably ever learned in NTU.
Yeah. That's amazing. I think one thing that's a huge part of persuasion and influence is enthusiasm. Even though we did not chat about it today, it's very apparent in the way you demonstrate, through the way you speak. And it's got me enthusiastic about life as well. So thank you. We've come to the end of our episode.
Thank you, Kevin. A pleasure to be here.
Yeah. And for all of you listening, of course, this is brought to you by NTU's Career and Attachment Office. So if you need help from them, perspectives on your career, do look for them. And with that, subscribe and stay tuned as well to future episodes. Leave a comment also if you want, and share it with other people that might be useful. Okay, we'll see you. Bye.